Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes? Matt here from YoVideogames. If you've been a fan of the channel for a while, then you probably know I'm not the biggest fan of Square Enix. I'm one of those gameplay first, gameplay always kind of guys. Truth is though, I used to love the company, or at least get really excited for releases like everyone else did in the late 90s. However, something happened when I scrapped together enough cash and decided to purchase my very own PlayStation system. No longer at the mercy of my brother's library of games, I started to play RPGs from other developers, and that's when my admiration for the developer really started to wane. With titles from Game Arts, Tri-Ace, and Namco Tales Studio, I started to care less and less about the presentation and more about the battle systems and charm of the main characters. Squaresoft was wise to capitalize on the prestigious image it built for itself from the 32-bit era, but for me personally, it really became obsessed with style over substance. That isn't to say I hated all Final Fantasy games, but even the ones I liked, I only seemed to like partially. I've also never been a fan of MMO games, so 11 and 14 were never even a real consideration for me. I think it's safe to say that the transition to the HD era has been really difficult for many Japanese companies, Square Enix especially. Their drive for the top-of-the-line presentation and visuals has seriously cost them time and money and resulted in a much smaller library of current-gen titles and many delays. None more infamous than Final Fantasy XV. We are almost upon the 9-year anniversary of the game's announcement as Final Fantasy Versus 13, and even at the time I was more interested in this title over the main Final Fantasy 13 game. Sure, I'm not a big Kingdom Hearts fan, but I was interested to see Final Fantasy with a real-time action battle system. Sadly, as the years went on with little to no info, Square seemed to do nothing but fuel my cynicism and disdain for the company and how it ran development. About 6 months ago it was announced that Tetsuya Nomura was getting pulled off the project and that Final Fantasy Type 0 director Hajime Tabata would be finishing it as the new director. Frankly, I've seen this as nothing but a positive, as Tabata has been a much more open and honest person in the 6 months he's been the main director. Still, it's been a long time coming, and after nearly a decade of wait, Square decided to pull a Kojima and bundle the demo of Final Fantasy XV with an HD remaster of Type 0 for next-gen systems. Now, many who have followed development of the title closely will be quick to argue that actual development of this title has only really been going on for the past few years, and that it's more or less been scrapped and restarted from what we saw in 2006. Fair enough, but I would still argue that many of the core elements are still here. It's always been an action RPG, it always starred a J-Rock boy band, and it's always meant to have been a much more open-world experience. Restarting or not, they have plenty of years of experience making action RPG games at the company. Not to mention Crystal Tools has been an internally developed engine for as long as we've known about the title. So really, unfinished or not, this demo is really important to making a good impression if they hope to make a fraction of the money they've probably spent on it back. So with all that out of the way, the real question is, does the Final Fantasy XV demo make non-Final Fantasy fans want to buy the main game? Remember, Square is out for the big multi-million seller, not just the hardcore. Well, for me, the answer is no and yes. It's been a very long time since I've seen this much potential for a Final Fantasy game. I love the open world nature of the setting, however the demo presents a myriad of invisible walls and obstacles that may or may not be in the final game. You can't swim in the lakes, and you can't climb up every rock structure. There are giant beasts that appear only as decoration and not high-level enemies a la Xenoblade. And to be frank, that's what I really want from Final Fantasy XV, is to be a real-time Xenoblade. I love exploring detailed game worlds, and Final Fantasy XV comes so close to scratching that adventuring itch, but falls just short in the demo. A smaller concern of mine that won't be addressed is the clashing art styles. The main characters look right off a boy band poster in Little Tokyo, while the rest of the NPC characters are wearing everyday clothing found at the Gap, and everyone seems to drive specifically 1950s era automobiles. The big exception to all this is the main character's car and its mechanic, the absurdly designed Cindy. Make no mistake, I have no problem with pretty girls in games, but this character is straight out of the Tecmo school of clothing design and really sticks out poorly. Another issue with art is the enemies really look like something out of a 16-bit era Final Fantasy, yet the actual game world goes in really hard for a realistic landscape. Point is, it just doesn't mesh well and clashes constantly. It's something I can overlook if the game is fun, and it is. Kind of. The biggest issue with the demo is the fact that it simply does not run well. The resolution is lower than the final game and the frame rate is all over the place. These can be optimized by release, but they shouldn't be ignored either. The controls are sluggish, and like I feared, mashing can usually get you through most circumstances. It's nice that there's dodging and parrying mechanics, but when some simple grinding and an occasional super move can get you through most battles, what's the point? This is where taking a hit on visuals could really serve the gameplay. In Xenoblade, it uses a very MMO or Final Fantasy XII battle system, so precise attacking and stable frame rate isn't a necessity. However, with being a fully real-time battle system, a stable frame rate is critical, especially if it's not going over 30. The fact that the state it's in only a small area of a supposedly much larger world, one they hope to make seamless, is extremely worrying. There are other very questionable control placements as well, regarding things such as lock-on, and some iffy design choices such as cramming way too many enemy characters in an extremely tiny space, or making you camp for the night to actually level up. Another personal worry of mine is enemy variety. The demo only features around 4 or so enemy types across its whole expansive field area. Yes, it's a demo, but it's a demo 9 years in the making for a lot of people, and it's the first taste of a next-gen Final Fantasy for those who haven't been keeping up. First impressions are hard things to shake off, good or bad. That isn't to say it's a bad demo, because it's not. It's lengthy, it offers a variety of places to go, a promising boss battle encounter, and shows off summons and limit break-like abilities. However, Square really needed to put on its best for this demo. Full resolution and frame rate, as well as full access to everywhere on the map. The frustrating thing about potential is how often it goes unrealized, and this is a company that I do not feel has realized its potential for a very, very long time. Still, I like what I see. I enjoy the core premise of the game, but at this stage, it's missing a lot of simple things that could really improve the experience, and after this long in development, I feel justified in expecting it. It's a lot more fun than 13 already, and it's definitely a game I want to try upon its release. However, with coming up on a decade, it really sucks that I'm only curious for the final game and not dying with anticipation. But for a hater like me, curious is a long way from where I was. I'll be putting my playthrough of the demo up on the channel in the following days. Let me know what you guys think below, and I'll catch you on the channel. Later, dudes!